the first thing that we want to discuss with you today is the fallout over the weekend from the scenes in Dublin City Centre where large crowds gathered. The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Tony Holohan, on Twitter over the weekend said he was absolutely shocked at the scenes in Dublin at the weekend, which he said were like a major open-air party. And we want to get your reaction to what we saw both on Saturday night and then on Sunday morning with the mess, the rubbish, the litter. In fact, the video is on our Facebook page here. It was just disgusting. And we're going to be asking who is to blame for the mess and what should be done. What would you like to see being done with regard to outdoor gatherings like that? If anything, maybe you think they should be allowed to gather like that. Maybe you think... Yeah, go on.
Sorry, let's read out Dr. Tony Holohan's tweet, first of all, that he sent on Saturday. And it got an absolute huge backlash from people. And he says, drove into Dublin City Centre to collect someone from work at 8:15 p.m. Absolutely shocked at scenes in South Great Georgia Street, Exchequer Street and South William Street. Enormous crowds, like a major open-air party. This is what we do not need when we have made so much progress. So there's two sides to this. There's two angles on this. And there's, first of all, you can condemn the mess that was made by these people without condemning them for actually meeting in the first place. Okay, so there's kind of two strands to this argument because, you know, on one hand, for the last month, the government have been telling us and the Taoiseach have been telling us this summer, we have to think outdoors. We have to think outdoors. Don't be socializing in houses. Outdoors, outdoors, outdoors. That's where it's at. You know, it's safer outdoors to pick up the virus. So people have been going outdoors, and now the Chief Medical Officer is saying, well, go outdoors, but don't do what you were doing in the city centre at the weekend. And I think, with the greatest respect to Dr. Tony Holohan, I think his head has been in the sand for the last couple of weeks. These kind of gatherings have been going on for a lot longer than this weekend. This weekend wasn't the first time that something like this happened.
It was a fairly large gathering, though, it has to be said. But look, we'll come back to talking about that in just a second. But we'd like to get your reaction. What would you like to see being done? I'm going to be telling you how I was in Derry over the weekend. All of the pubs, all of the restaurants are open, and I saw no large gatherings of crowds. That's the big difference, because people had somewhere to go. And we'll talk about that.
Well, Derry's not as big a city as Dublin, so you can't compare the situation.
But it's a very concentrated city centre area. And like I said, I saw no large crowds gathering in Derry City, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a population of 150,000, by the way. 150,000.
I know, I'm aware of that. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But anyway, we'd like to hear from you. Send us a WhatsApp to 085 825 2626. 085 825 2626, because I'm joined on the line. And by the way, sorry, if you're watching us on Facebook, please share our video to your own page so that others can get involved in this conversation, okay? So just at the bottom of your screen there, press share it to your own page, and let others join in the conversation. I'm joined on the line by independent Dublin City Councillor Mannix Flynn to discuss this. Mannix, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Mannix, this conversation takes two different angles, really. One is what we saw, well, actually three different angles. One is what we saw on Saturday night with the large crowds gathering. The other is the litter situation, the mess that was left on Sunday. And then the third is what should be done in terms of, like, should the pubs be open and so on. So firstly, Mannix, let me get your reaction to what we saw on Saturday night, and in particular, the tweet that really got a lot of backlash from the Chief Medical Officer. What is your reaction?
Well, first of all, I mean, well before the tweet went out, there was concern, within the given area of South William Street, because, I mean, this area has been recently pedestrianised. And the concern was around the fact that this area wasn't being managed in any way whatsoever, that the city council just came in, pedestrianised, and then checked off, so to speak. So when the tweet came out, that just sparked off, a frenzy. But, all day, on Saturday, there was large and large crowds gathering. The other aspect of it was that many of the people that were there were actually consuming alcohol. So really what happened here was a breakdown of how to manage the public domain. Now, Dublin City Council, when I asked them about this, are they going to manage the public domain, kind of screamed back at me saying, they don't police the city. But the point of the matter is they are in charge of the city and they're obliged to actually manage the public domain.
But they do have a point that they don't police the city.
But they don't police the city. The Gardaí police the city, and the Gardaí only police the city after there's no manageability. Like, we manage St. Patrick's Day Parade. Temple Bar is generally managed. Dublin City Council somewhat managed the boardwalk on occasion. So if you're going to put pedestrianised areas into a place, they managed, Portobello Plaza by closing it off when they realised that they couldn't manage it. So all they needed to do was have staff on hand here while this was implemented, the pedestrianisation over a period of time, and ask people, would they not congregate? And it would have been I think it would have been fine, like you would in a park. But that didn't happen. And by the time the Gardaí arrived at the public order unit at 9 o'clock, the whole thing was out of hand. And there were people running around naked. I'm not going to go into all of the details of what I saw, notwithstanding the fact that the rubbish was all over the place. Now, you provide bins and you provide staff and you provide road sweeping and waste management services throughout the day to clean the city. But all of these have been pulled back and chopped up by Mr. Owen Keegan, who's cut overtime and cut these particular services. And again, the government have been saying, come out, enjoy yourself. We're going to have outdoor dining. We're all dying for the point, etc. I don't understand the reasons why you get an outdoor point or a takeaway point. Everybody's in and out of Dunnes Stores buying slabs of alcohol. Where are they going to drink it? Who's going to manage the situation? I'd much prefer to see a managed situation like you have in Northern Ireland, where the bars are actually open and it's manageable and it's contained and controlled. We've always been drinking on the street here outside the bars. But in this instance, what happened was, Adrian, was that there was nobody actually managing the situation, nobody managing people's safety. And so therefore, this was a working street on a working Saturday. People couldn't get in and out of shops. Children couldn't move in and out of the street. People ran from the area because they realised that this was actually not managed. So
okay, so Mannix, what is the answer here? What's the solution? As I said, I was in Derry.
Very simple, Adrian.
Yeah, go on.
The answer is very, very simple. The answer is manage the situation, bring people into the city centre, and understand that they are going to actually, be under the influence of alcohol or shopping or whatever it is, but manage the crowds in the way they did outside the Penny. Like, for instance, there's going to be a concert, hopefully, in the Phoenix Park in July. That's an event that's going to be managed with portaloos, etc., etc., etc. This is the way you manage it. Dublin City Centre isn't a vast place. It's easily manageable, like we did with the canal and like we did with Portobello. And when we're asked to do it, we can actually do it. We can do it extraordinarily well. We've managed to look after the Gay Pride Festival. We've managed to look after St. Patrick's Day Festival. It's huge, big, massive events.
But the difference here, Mannix, is they are all organized events where when people are going to be gathering, when they're going to be leaving. What we saw on Saturday, not just in Dublin, by the way, in Galway and in Cork and all over the country, were events that weren't organized. So, there was no...
But the government, Adrian, with all due respect, had a year to organise this event as we came out of lockdown, had a year to understand all the dynamics. It's not today nor yesterday. I'm in City Council, I'm on the ground, I'm all across the Dublin Bay South area. I understand all the dynamics. But the problem here is that Dublin City Council, which gets €1 billion of your money, spends half of that on wages. We're not proactive here. And the Gardaí were called in a crisis situation, and Dublin City Council, who provided the pedestrianised areas and are providing all the licenses for on-street dining, haven't given us the plan as to how this is all going to be managed.
So if you were making the decisions for the next couple of weeks, we know, for example, that, in fact, the situation is likely to get even worse next weekend when pubs and restaurants are allowed to serve outdoor dining. And it could get worse in terms of outdoor drinking. Would you like to see what they've done in Northern Ireland? And as I said, I was in Derry over the weekend, was in several pubs. Every pub was well organised, well controlled, with perspex screens and everything else. And I saw no large gatherings of people outside the Guildhall or anything like that. Would you like to see us biting the bullet and opening up all of our pubs and restaurants from next week?
Well, I'd like to see an all-Ireland approach. I'm in favour of an all-Ireland approach.
It just hasn't happened, though, Mannix. And we've seen that it hasn't.
That particular question, I would like to see the public houses and the restaurants open, and their staff being brought back in, and the managers and the owners of these premises managing the situation. Because we can't rely on the situation where Dublin City Council and the government have announced all these plans, and yet there's nobody actually managing it. You bring in the Garda Síochána as a last resort. Their job isn't to state manage the public domain. Their job is to deal with crime and antisocial behaviour in public order. And at the last moment, these folk get brought in. Now, I will say this much, that Temple Bar Company have actually put out, and it's the only plan that I've seen. Now, it is a bit kind of bonkers. It's for 3,000 tables. But nonetheless, it's a plan that was handed into Dublin City Council that by and large the manage would work. I don't see such a plan from Dublin City Council. I don't see such a plan coming from local authority and local government. And you are correct. This happened all over the country. And people were assuming, nobody kind of tweeted that we're going to have a rave. This wasn't something that was illegal, that was being organised behind people's back. This was folk going out, enjoying themselves, and all of a sudden they were congregating in areas, and they were basically weren't even being supervised. So, we are coming out of this pandemic. There is a situation where we have to keep our thoughts on social distancing, wearing a mask, given all of that proper situation. You need someone to remind us of that situation. Say, excuse me, would you mind putting your mask on? Would you mind doing your social? It's all fairly straightforward. But not at the last moment when it's catastrophic.
All right, Independent Councillor Mannix Flynn. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we really appreciate you taking our call today. Thanks very much indeed.
You're very welcome, and the very best with your new endeavour of independent broadcasting. We need more and more people like yourself, and more independent broadcasting to get across the honest truth. Thank you, Adrian.
All right, good to talk to you, Mannix. Thanks very much indeed. That is Independent Councillor Mannix Flynn, and. Jeremy, I mean, he's blaming the council. He's saying the council aren't doing enough. Do you see it that way?
As I said at the start of this, there's two strands here. There's the social gathering of huge crowds. And I mean, to see some of the videos on over the weekend, it was Friday and Saturday and yesterday. It was a three-day thing. Your first reaction is, oh my God, that's awful. But then you realize these people need to live. They've been locked up, they've been cooped up, they haven't had much of a social life. The weather is great. What do people expect these people to do? To stay indoors, to stay in their living rooms? Not everybody has a garden. Has the luxury of a garden that they can go out to. I mean, you look at the amount of people in Dublin who live in apartments. What, do they want to be cooped up in their apartments? So the first reaction is, oh my God, this is crazy. But what caused me more anger was the mess the next day, because it was disgusting. It was akin to the sights that you see in Electric Picnic and Longitude the next day. And the gas thing about these people who make this mess is they're the same people who every day of the week will be screaming on social media about the environment and about how environmentally conscious they are. This kind of generation, these weren't 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds who were out drinking in the city centre at the weekend. They were the younger people. They were the woke generation.
Okay, but I will argue that they're just, if you looked at the scenes from the next day, every single litter bin was full to overflowing. Okay. Now, if you're in that situation, if you were in that crowd and the bins are completely overflowing, I was in there having an outdoor pint a couple of weeks ago, and in fairness, the council workers were coming along and they were emptying the bins, and it was really easy to get rid of your litter. The other night, it wasn't, because they were completely jam-packed, and people then just went, now, I wouldn't do that. I'd put all my stuff in a bag and I'd bring it home with me. But you have to blame the council to an extent that they didn't do enough.
That's kind of like saying, if you go to the bathroom in your house and there's no toilet paper in the bathroom, do you use a hand towel to wipe your arse? No, you don't. You know what I mean? This comes down to personal responsibility. And, there's nothing stopping you bringing a bag with you. There's nothing stopping you. In other words, if these people were drinking on a beach on Saturday, but they had left that.
Do actually leave the stuff behind them on the beach.
No,
I was
not to the same extent
today, and there was mess all around the place as well. So, all right, we'd like to get your reaction to this whole thing. What is your answer to this? In my opinion, I think from the experience that I had over the weekend up in Derry, I think it's time to open the pubs, full stop. Let's just do it from next weekend. It's not going to happen, but that's what I think should happen. And then you at least have some control. I was in a number of pubs over the weekend, and in each pub in Derry, it was well controlled. People walked around with their face mask when they were going to the toilet. There were perspex screens in between tables, and I saw nothing to concern me. I really didn't.
And again, it's a population of 150,000 that you're talking about.
The same thing in Belfast, which is a much bigger city. And again, the pubs are open and it is controlled. You're not hearing today reports of large gatherings of hundreds of people in Belfast because they didn't need to. They didn't need to.
I agree with you 100%. The pubs should be open now. And here's the thing. Okay, so the government and Dublin City Council are now aware what the problems are. Okay, so they have a week. We've a bank holiday weekend coming up. We've a full week of great weather, by the way, as well. And next weekend is supposed to be lovely as well. So they now have a situation where they have a week to plan. They have 5 days to plan something that prevents this from happening again. And I don't think it's a case of putting more Gardaí on the street to stop people gathering. People are fed up at this stage. They want to gather outside in the good weather. You cannot prevent. This is not like this time last year. You know, people are fed up at this stage and they want to be able to socialise. So the government have 5 days to put a plan in place that will stop a repeat of what happened. And I don't blame the pubs either for serving the takeaway drink.
No,
if you look at the rubbish on South William Street and Exchequer Street, a lot of it was empty boxes from slabs of beer. People brought their own drinks into the city centre. They weren't buying it, albeit in a large amount. Some of them were buying it from the pubs, but a lot of them, it was BYOB. It was bring your own beer into the city centre. So,
all right, 085 825 2626 is our WhatsApp number. We'd like to get you involved. We'd like your opinion. What would you like to see being done? And who do you blame for the mess that was left behind? In my opinion, it was the council. The council saw this crowd gathering, obviously knew bins are going to be overflowing. Council workers should have been up and down that street all day clearing away.
So you blame the council. You don't blame the people who literally
drank
out of the cans.
No, I'm not arguing that point. I think it is disgusting. But they have, the city council have large, big bins. Now, I'm talking about temporary ones, big, huge containers.
I've seen them,
ones. They should be more of them should be brought in. Let's have a listen to some of your reactions. Send us a WhatsApp to 085 825 2626 and let me know your opinion on what we over over the weekend. Darren sent this to us.
Morning, Adrian and Jeremy. Just in quick one in relation to your post about the scenes in town at the weekend. Firstly, I really feel Tony Holohan and Neffe should be decommissioned as soon as possible. What did they expect young people to do after the harshest and longest lockdown in the world? Secondly, didn't they say that outdoors was best, which is what these people were doing, they were outdoors? And thirdly, if the pubs were open and the beer gardens were open in a controlled manner, none of this would happen. People have been locked down for 15 months nearly, with no break. What did they expect when we got some decent weather? People to stay at home, locked up in your sitting room behind the sofa. It's just mental. Cheers, Darren.
All right, Darren, thanks very much indeed. And this is what this all comes down to.
By the way, nobody's been locked up for 15 months. Let's not be dramatic about it. You know, we haven't been doing time in Mountjoy Prison, you know, locked up behind bars for 15 months. We did have breaks. We did have breaks.
It has seemed like we've been locked up for 15 months. It has felt like we've been locked up for 15 months. And I know places were open for a time last year and everything else, but people have just had, especially after the winter lockdown, people have just had enough. And that's just the fact of it. 085 825 2626 is our WhatsApp number. And as I said, if you're watching us on Facebook, please share this video on your own Facebook page so that all of your friends can see that Adrian and Jeremy are debating this big issue today. 085 825 2626 is our WhatsApp number. Now, we were talking about the mess in Dublin. I mentioned that on my way home yesterday, we went to Clogherhead for a fish and chips, and the litter around the place was just disgusting as well. Lauren says British Bay was just as bad.
Morning, lads. About the large gatherings. Yesterday, I was meant to go down to my dad. My dad lives about 10 minutes from British, and now we were going to going to go down to British Bay, and my dad was going to go down, but he rang me at 10 o'clock in the morning saying, look, you're better off leaving it because the car park, which holds 800 people in British Bay, was completely jammed. The roads and the boatways of getting into British Bay were completely jammed back. My dad had to go with the JCB down to move some of the larger bins to make more room, and it took him an hour and 45 minutes to get from his house, which is, like I said, 10 minutes away from the beach. So he just rang and said, look, there's no point in coming down, you're going to spend the day in the car. So it was absolutely hammered down there. Like, I know everybody was looking forward to getting out to the beach, and I was looking forward to it too, but yeah, I wasn't going to spend the day in the car, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, he rang me back at 4:30 to say that the traffic going back to Dublin was absolutely crazy from Wicklow, like absolutely mental. And that was without even thinking about COVID.
All right, there you go. That's Lauren. We've been sent photographs of the rubbish around Wexford over the weekend as well. So it's not just a Dublin thing. Is the answer to this? Now, this is the question, because I was reading some comments earlier on. Some people worried that if we give in to this pressure to reopen everything, that we could find ourselves with January all over again. Now, my opinion on that
is... we won't. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
No, my opinion on that is young people particularly, are a little bit more relaxed now. And the reason they're a little bit more relaxed now is they've seen their own parents and their own grandparents being vaccinated, in many cases with both doses.
Half the population.
The young crowd aren't as worried about bringing COVID home to their mammy and daddy. And we've seen from the official hospitalization figures, people aren't ending up in the hospital. Even though we're having 300, 400 cases a day, the people who are getting it are all under 45 and aren't getting sick. And that's just the fact of it. 085-825-2626 is our WhatsApp number if you want to get involved in this conversation. Now, Sandra, by contrast, is not happy with the scenes that we saw.
Good morning, guys. I know you'll be talking about what happened in the Dublin City Centre. It is absolutely disgusting. Now, I'm looking at the comments on the Facebook page. There is no point in blaming the council for this. These people are big adults. Yes, there was bills. There was things there, all right, and they were completely full. And to see this going on, there are street cameras, and there's no point in blaming the Gardaí for this. The Gardaí shouldn't have to come out. These are adults. What I'm trying to say as well, if you find out who all these people are by the street cameras, name them and shame them, and make them do community service and take the money out of their work and their dole as well. Make them do community service for a full 2 to 3 months. Hard labour.
Okay, let's stop. Can we stop? Can we do something here? Can we stop shaming people as well who just want to go out and have a good time? And I'll give you an example of it. We decided to go to Black Rock yesterday because the weather was lovely. And Black Rock was like any Sunday during the summer, during normal times. It was busy. There was pubs doing takeaway drinks. There was street food. It was just a nice atmosphere. And we were walking down by the train station, and people were in having a dip, and we were there as well. And it was fairly crowded, but we kept our distance from everybody. But at the time, I'm thinking, oh, can you imagine there's someone out here now at the moment that's going to take a photograph and try and shame us just for enjoying ourselves in the sun? And this crap has to stop. It's bullshit. This curtain twitching that's still going on and shaming people. There's a difference between people wanting to socialize and have a good time and people blatantly breaking COVID regulations. And you know, a lot of the people that were in the city centre at the weekend, they're not bad people. You know, they're not super spreaders. They're not breaking a law. They shouldn't be behind bars. The ones that made the mess, yes, obviously something should be done about that. But, you know, it's not illegal to socialise on a nice sunny day.
085-825-2626 is our WhatsApp number if you want to get involved in this conversation. What do you think should be done? I'm worried about next weekend because, as we know, during the week, pubs and restaurants will be allowed to serve for outdoor I think that could make it even messier. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what does happen over the weekend. Kevin sent us this WhatsApp voice note.
Adrian, how are you? Listen, I just listened to yourselves there in Clareborn this morning, and it's just, loads of waffle about young people gathering and stuff. Like, at the end of the day, we've been locked down now for all year, and in most of last year. You can't blame the people. So the obvious answer now is to open the pubs. And you have to remember, the whole point of these vaccinations is the fact that we have to protect the vulnerable and keep the hospitalizations down. Now, that's all happened. All the vulnerable people are vaccinated. So what's the big deal? So stop with the drama. Let's all move on and change the subject. Thank you.
All right, Kev. Yeah. Change the subject.
There's 99 people in hospitals at the moment with COVID. So it's a fairly managed. Now, that's not to take away from the fact that these are family members of people who are sitting at home worried sick at the moment because, their family members are in hospital. But, a figure that low is manageable as far as I would be concerned. 300.
At this stage, I agree. Obviously, one of the worries that they have is that this Indian variant that is on the rampage in England could start spread. It spreads much easier. But my thing on this again is that young people are the ones that are contracting COVID-19 now. Everybody, most people who have contracted in the last week are under 45. They're not ending up in hospital. They're not getting very sick from it. And as you can see on Saturday, they're prepared to take the risk with it because they know that their own parents and their own grandparents at this stage have been vaccinated. The vaccine rollout is very fast and very efficient now. And maybe it is time. I remember at the very start of this, having a conversation with a colleague, and his attitude at that time was, let's vaccinate the old and vulnerable and let the rest of us get on with it. And now,
I like the way you don't conclude yourself in old or vulnerable now at this stage. You're one of the young people now, are you?
Yeah.
Is that what you are? Yeah.
No, but that was the point he made at the time. Vaccinate the elderly and the vulnerable and let the rest of us get on with it. And I think even in people's own mindset, that's where we are at now. And Kevin's message says exactly that. Let's change the conversation and let's move on. 085 825 2626 is our WhatsApp number. Please send us a voice note and let us know what you want to see being done now. Okay. Kira sent us this.
Firstly, I'd just like to say that I think it's absolutely disgraceful the way the streets were left. But if there's no bins, people aren't going to put something in a bin. I think if you look at that video, there was one bin on the street. And even on a normal day, I work in town, I know, like the area, you're walking around with your empty coffee cup looking for a bin. And Dublin City Council need to sort that out as well, But I do still think it's disgraceful, the mess that was left. But like, if pubs and restaurants were open, where would people be? They'd be in the pubs and restaurants, eating their food, having their drinks, not congregating on a street where they can buy takeaway drinks. And I'm not saying, I don't think that the places selling takeaway drinks are at fault either, because places need to make money. Like, places are closed for way too long now, and it's just ridiculous. And there's a bank holiday coming up, and I've absolutely no doubt that the same thing is going to happen next week. And look, like, it's not just young people either. I was working in town on Saturday and Sunday, and it was mixed age groups. Yeah, there was more younger people, but it was mixed age groups.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't all 20-year-olds. There were people of all ages in town over the weekend. And
yeah, the argument, by the way, about the bins, it doesn't wash with me. And as I said a few minutes ago, I gave the example of, we were in Black Rock yesterday, and there's feck all bins in Black Rock as well. Because no place is designed, Ireland and towns and villages and all that is not designed for outdoor living, because we get very few days where people can actually go outside and enjoy themselves. And I didn't see anything like that sort of mess in Black Rock yesterday. And in fact, we were sitting down at the wall at Black Rock near the Dart station, and I ran up to Supermax to get a chips and curry sauce and ate it down on the wall. Now, there was no bin anywhere where I was sitting, but did I leave my empty Supermax packet on the ground and just feck it on the ground at Black Rock? No, I took it with me and brought it back.
You didn't. But The fact of the matter is that it makes it much more likely that litter is going to be strewn everywhere if there aren't enough bins. And the fact is that a huge percentage of people did put stuff in the bins because the bins were overflowing. That's the point. So if there were more bins, then there would be less stuff on the ground. Here's a message from a different Kira who thinks that everything should be open.
I think you should just open everything back up and then there won't be all these mass gatherings. People are just sick of sitting in. Why is that so hard for everyone to understand? It's been over a year now. Yeah, I get there's a virus. I'm sorry, if you're vulnerable, stay in. Let everybody else go out and live their life. Can't be sitting in locked up like this forever. It's stupid.
085 825 2626 is our WhatsApp number. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please share this video onto your own Facebook page so that others can see that we're here. And also highlight notifications on your Facebook if you want to get a notification when we are live. In fact, there's a video further down our timeline that explains exactly how to do that.
Now, Katie makes a valid point on Facebook, and I don't know the answer to this, Katie. All these people drinking for hours on end, where did they go to the toilet?
That's another question.
That's what would put me off. I would not go into the city centre. I mean, it would have been lovely to go into Stephen's Green yesterday and be able to spend the day sitting on the grass and having a couple of drinks or whatever. But where in God's name, when you get
there's one public toilet outside Stephen's Green Shopping Centre, and the queue for it, anytime I've passed it, is miles long. You would literally wet your pants while you were standing in that queue.
So where did these people urinate who were drinking all day on Saturday?
I don't know the answer to. I really don't know the answer to that question. I was in Stephen's Green a couple of weeks ago, had a couple of drinks, sitting on the grass, had a lovely afternoon, and I went down to that public toilet outside Stephen's Green Shopping Centre, and I stood there 10, 12 minutes to use it. For women, the queue was halfway down Grafton Street. So I don't know how they cope. All right, we'll squeeze in a couple more of your messages. This guy was in Belfast at the weekend.
I was in Belfast at the weekend. Hello, Adrian. I thought you never got rid of me there, would you? You probably remember me from the radio show anyway. Pubs are open 100%. No social distancing, no masks or anything like that. You did see perspex sheets by the bar, and you wasn't allowed to stand by the bar. But this is what happens when you distribute the vaccine the right way, like they did in the UK. Unlike in this country where queue jumpers like the VHI guy was able to get the jab earlier than people. Now, if they distribute the jab properly, you wouldn't be in this mess either. The pubs would be 100% open. No, this country's one messed up state, if you ask me. Tony Holohan should never had the job anyway, especially after his track record of cervical cancer and all that. Who does he think he is? Some sort of Marxist dictator, if you ask me. It's good to see you boys up and running anyway. So soon as the vaccine is distributed and all that, and I would go back to normal life, because I'm sick of being told what to do by unelected officials.
And it's very interesting, actually. He mentioned Dr. Tony Holohan over the weekend. And as you know, Dr. Holohan put up a tweet, drove into Dublin City Centre to collect someone from work at 8:15 p.m. Absolutely shocked at scenes in South Great Georgia Street, Exchequer Street, South William Street, enormous crowds like a major open-air party. This is what we do not need when we have made so much progress. And for the first time ever, I think since this pandemic began, the reaction to what Dr. Holohan put up on Twitter over the weekend was quite vicious. It really was.
He didn't read the room, did he? He definitely didn't read the room.
He didn't read the room, and it's the first time I remember last year when he
drawing murals of him on walls everywhere.
But I remember last year when he took time off to care for his wife, there were massive outpourings of sympathy, and indeed when his wife sadly passed away, massive outpourings of sympathy, because people respect the guy, respect what he has done in leading us medically over the last year and a bit. But Saturday's tweet, the comments under his tweet, show that people are now done. That's how I read the reaction to Dr. Holohan's tweet.
Yeah, and by the way, I still respect him, and I'm sure a lot of people still respect him.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, we will be forever indebted to him for bringing us through this as safely as we could. His job as CMO, yeah, is to protect people from harm, and that's not only to do with COVID. That's, I mean, if you asked Dr. Tony how he feels about smoking as well, I'm sure he'd give you a fairly staunch opinion on that. So his job is to protect us, and you know, he gets things wrong and he gets things right. But definitely, that tweet, it just didn't go down well with people. Maybe if that had been 3 months ago even, and he had a tweet at that, he would have got a lot more support,
because he would have had the public behind him.
Yeah, but the tide has turned, and that's how people feel.
We'll squeeze in one final WhatsApp voice note. We've an interesting conversation coming up in a second, which is related but unrelated, if you know what I mean. This is Niall.
Jeremy, good to see you, and hopefully to talk to you. It strikes me that the scenes in Dublin City Centre would be a bloody disgrace whether we had COVID or not. I can understand people just want to go out and have a good time. I went out with my family myself and enjoyed the sunshine, although we went south side and the queue down to Bray on the M11 and the queue on the roundabout from Shankill to Bray was mental. So we changed our plans to go to Bray and we went elsewhere. But the problem is that these so-called grown-ups made shit of a perfectly nice part of the city. First off, I don't see the attraction of gathering in a big group out on a city street just to have a few scoops. But that aside, to each their own, how hard is it really to throw your rubbish in a bin or take it home with you? A bit of pride in your city would not go astray. Anyway, fair play to you. Good to see you back, lads.
Thanks very much indeed, Niall. The fact of the matter is that we're being told, and this is what Dublin City Council have to focus on. We leave it at this. This is what the City Council have to focus on, and the guards, by the way, because I'm seeing signs, alcohol not to be consumed on streets, in public places and all of that. That's not going to help because we're being told to have an outdoor summer this year. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to have outdoor dining. As soon as it starts pissing out of the heavens again, we won't even be having this conversation. But it is summer 2021 in Ireland. The nice days are a rarity. And when we get them, people want to be outdoors. Every single one of us wants to be outdoors, particularly.
And that doesn't make you a bad person. That does not make you a bad person.
Particularly when there's shag all else to do. We can't go to restaurants. We can't go to bars. Anyway, and one final one. And again, this conversation is when COVID is long over, we need to have the conversation about public loos. In Amsterdam, and I've witnessed this myself, they have multi-urinals on most corners to use them on. So say, for example, Westmoreland Street, before a huge amount of them were not being used. We need to start putting these portable toilets all around the city, particularly at weekends, and particularly when we know in advance that the weather's going to be nice at the weekend. Somebody somewhere should be going, oh, let's get prepared for that. People are going to come in. People are going to gather. Let's put up loads of public toilets.